Hey guys.
Hurry up. We've been doing fixes and so they rebooted.
We'll get started just in a second, guys. We got one of the computers here having some reboot issues, so we'll get started momentarily. Good to go? Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on December 22nd. If you guys would rise with me. We don't have a pastor here available, but I'll go ahead and do the invocation and then we'll do the pledge. Father God, thank you once again for this evening. Thank you all for all of us making it here safely amongst all this crazy cold weather. And I just ask that you keep everyone safe today as they travel. And just help us to make the best decisions this evening for the city and for our citizens. And give us wisdom and understanding and discernment. In Jesus' name, amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mrs. Roth? Here. Mr. Peel?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. North? Here. Mr. Van Houten?
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. We did have a request to remove item number 5 off our list there. Other than that, are there any other requested changes? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda with removing item number 5.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to the public hearing. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing for the 2022 budget amendment. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor. And I invite you to make the presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to make just a few comments and then leave it up to the public. We take a glance to see if we have very many people who want to talk about a budget amendment tonight. I'll let you control. There we go. The reason that we're having a budget amendment tonight is because we have revenue that has exceeded our 2022 budget. This does not impact the 2023 budget. I'll go through each category and let you know where we have exceeded, and what we need to do tonight is create the authority for the council to transfer these funds or spend them if you choose to, but it basically creates the authority to do something with these excess funds. In the general fund, as we expected, the cash carryover from 21 into 22 was $571,000 more than was budgeted. We carried about just over 1.2 million into this year, and the target was 750. Sales tax exceeded budget by 825,000, and these numbers are through November, by the way. Franchise tax exceeded budget amounts by $75,000. All of those items are basically because we have more population and more people living here. Basically, they spend money and generate sales tax, they have utilities on, they generate franchise fees. Sales and services within the city has exceeded budget by $100,000. And a lot of that came from community development in the way of development fees and building permits and things like that. So the total amount to be amended in the general fund is $1,571,849. Excise tax exceeded budget by $500,000. That is in a separate excise tax fund. Those taxes are generated as land is platted, and the developer pays excise taxes to the city for the platting, and those were $500,000 more than budgeted. In the water fund, the cash carryovers exceeded the target coming into '22 by $814,000. And system development fees, again, that is caused by growth and building, and that has exceeded budget by $170,000. Wastewater has a similar story. Their cash exceeded target by $2,333,000, and system development exceeded budget by $950,000. We are conservative revenue budgeters, clearly. So what we're doing here tonight is to amend the budget in the general fund for expenditure authority from $6,000,009 to $8.5 million. The excise tax from $1.395 million to $1,879,000. The water fund from $1,008,000 to $2,788,000. And then the wastewater fund is going to grow from $5,327,000 to $8,610,000. We are not asking for that money to be spent. My plan is to come back when the books close for 2022, and then we'll make a plan on what you would like to do, whether we move it to reserve funds or keep it as a cash carryover. But a budget amendment will give you the authority to make those changes when we can. Last year we did them in March, just to give you an idea. A really key thing here is that we are not changing the tax levy. We cannot do that. And we are not impacting the tax levy or any tax rates in the 2022 budget. And from that, I will leave it open to the public for comment, and this will come up in the formal agenda for approval, depending if we need to change anything from public comment. And I'd answer your questions if you want me to, right? Or I can answer them later.
You got any questions, guys?
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, great, I'll leave it to the public.
Alright, at this time we'll open the floor for public comment. If you would like to give public comment, if you would just step forward and state your name and your address. If we don't have anyone, we'll go ahead and close public comment and close the public hearing at this time. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. If you would like to speak, if you could step up, same, and say your name and address, that'd be great. We did not have anyone sign up, so if we don't have anyone for the citizen participation, we'll go ahead and close that at this time and move on to the consent agenda. I do have entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a
Sorry,
second.
so moved.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. And the first item on the agenda is consider approval of appropriation order number 2022-12-22. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Looks like you're gonna be pretty busy tonight.
Yes, look at my stack over there, and everyone's staring at me to be quick, so. Appropriation order is a standard procedure that we do each meeting. This one is for a total of $408,220.51 since the last meeting that we had. I open it to any questions that you have. Pretty straightforward. I think it's utility bills and Visa bills mostly on this one.
Yep.
Great, if not, I leave it to you for a motion and approval.
If there are no further questions or comments, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
I move to approve appropriation order number 2022-12-22. Second.
Got a motion and a second. If there's not any further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes, with the exception that I abstain from any invoices pertaining to J&T Auto Service.
Mr. Peel.
Yes.
Motion carries 500 with the exception stated by Mrs. Roth.
All right, thank you. Next item, we'll move on to number 11, consider approval of 2022 budget amendment. Mrs. Dunn, you still have the floor.
Great. I will not add to the presentation I did earlier. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, I'd leave it to you for your motion. I'd take any questions.
I did think of one question.
Okay.
When we did our 23 budget, were they based off, the increases based off of the budgeted amount or the actual amounts from these actual amounts that we have now?
I worked from I would have to say in some areas a combination.
Okay.
In that I worked first from the 22 budget to build the 23, but then I looked at the performance of the city, and I can remember conversations we had about sales tax as an example to say how much of the increase are we willing to take, and we were optimistic but still conservative, things like, so it's really a combination, but the foundation is always the budget, and then adjust where we need to over what actuals are for the year.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of.
And these are based off the estimates, the revenue estimates that we had for 2022, which would have been done a year ago.
Yes,
like last September.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I appreciate the conservative approach.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would much rather come in now
Yeah.
and say, hey, we have more, than have to come in and say, we aren't gonna make it.
Yeah.
And then you can make conscious decisions about where this money goes as opposed to building increases that magically get spent in a budget. I'd much rather do it this way.
Or cutting areas that we don't want to cut.
Yeah.
Exactly,
And then now we could possibly be able to do a few more things that we wanted to do but didn't have in the budget to do.
exactly,
Or, like you say, build our reserve funds too.
right.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 2022 budget amendment.
Second.
Got a motion in 2 seconds, sorry. Any further discussion?
Which one?
You can give it
We
to
can
him.
that-
Give it to him.
Mr.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
fine.
Go.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500. Next, we'll move on to item number 12. Consider approval of resolution number 2022-R-31, establishing the Employee Healthcare Reserve Fund. And Mrs. Dunn, you still have the floor.
I do, thank you. And as we are setting policy and keeping things in line with the new management team, one of the things we felt was important was to add a reserve fund related to employee health care. We're very fortunate that the city's been able to provide health care for the employees. We haven't seen drastic increases in premiums, but we all know how that works. One year we'll get a surprise. In addition to that, increasing costs over time, maybe revenues not where we want them to be, we could have a time when we wouldn't be able to provide insurance at no cost to the employees. So we're recommending that we establish an employee health care reserve fund. This fund is established by a resolution, and the important things with that is to know that the money that would fund this account would be from the general fund or another liability expense fund. Any source of revenue we find we want to utilize for this purpose. But the key thing is that transfer and deposits into this account would be approved by the council. So it isn't an account that I manage or the city administrator. You all will decide the expenditures from that account, or the revenue. You will also decide expenditures. Anything expended from this fund would need to be employee health care related. It doesn't just have to be the insurance premiums. We might find something else along the way that you feel falls in this category and you could approve that expenditure. We feel it's a savings account to help us avoid drastic changes or a budget buster that we can't plan for. This account would help alleviate things like that. At this time, there will not be, I'm not requesting a transfer into the account. That'll be a part of the transfers we make for year-end 2022 when that time comes, if you choose to fund it. So I'm happy to entertain any questions about the Employee Healthcare Reserve Fund.
So this is literally just establishing the account, just setting it up, not dropping anything into it yet.
Right, it is, we're establishing a whole new fund, yes.
I think it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think it's a really good idea. Help us manage the ebbs and flows of healthcare costs.
Absolutely,
Especially since we need that carrot to hold out for employees, since, you know, one of the
absolutely,
things we added recently, we don't want to take it away.
that's right.
And
It's a
if I heard you
wonderful
correctly, you said nothing would be spent out of there without authorization of the governing body.
That is correct, nor deposited in. You'll decide the money that goes there and you'll decide where it gets spent.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to have on hand, let's say, for the employees.
It will probably take a few years to build it. The minimum account balance we would like is a year's worth of insurance premiums for employee health care. It may take a few years to build to that, but once we get there, to maintain it will be much easier.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right, if there are no further questions, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-31, establishing the employee healthcare reserve fund.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2022-R32, adopting the 2023 through 2027 capital improvement plan for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. And Mrs. Dunn, you come up the floor.
Getting to be an old hat up here, aren't I? It's actually months and months of work that culminate in a few minutes here at the podium, so. Tonight, what we're gonna do is, I hope that you will approve the capital improvement program for the years 2023 to 2027. I think it's really important to point out when I sent you a report with many projects and a lot of money, that I wanted to explain exactly what the CIP is. This is a planning tool. This is a collection of all the data about projects. It's a 5-year view of those projects, so we aren't living one year, budget year to the next. And it is a living document. I mean, I already have updates to it. When you learn more about a project and you find out a little bit better about the cost or something like that, it will be a living document. What the CIP is not is any formal approval of all these projects. Tonight, you are not approving $85 million. You're approving that these are the projects in the plan. And then, as we normally do, a project is brought to you for approval. It's brought to you for contract approval, lots and lots of things that go into approving a project. In addition to that, this is not formal approving of the funding. It just is giving you a roadmap to say, based on the things that we want to get done, here are the projects that will take and how much it will cost. One of the steps of the CIP process is to present it to the Planning Commission. And on November the 3rd, the Planning Commission found that the CIP follows the comprehensive plan. That is their step to make sure the things we are working on is in line with that comprehensive plan and that we're working to accomplish the commitment of the comprehensive plan. There are 3 areas of focus in the comprehensive plan. Community development, public facility, and transportation that are addressed by the CIP. We got a lot of good questions from the Planning Commission. They challenged things. I did revisions and went back, which was really good give and take, and made changes. They had a very big concern about that $85 million number and how we would get there. So this slide shows you in the areas of focus for the comprehensive plan, how the money would be spent in each area. And just so you know, tonight I didn't want to talk about individual projects. Of course, I'd want to answer any questions or the people behind me can answer. I want to talk about the bigger picture of the plan. We could talk about the projects forever. But community development projects are things like parks, streets in new neighborhoods, sidewalks, the things that grow our community. Public facilities are all the things that the city owns, the water system, the wastewater system, sidewalks, curbs and gutters. Transportation is, as you would expect, the streets. So this slide tells you that of the $85 million in projects, it'll show you by year what is expected to be spent, and then also by category how we're supporting in dollars and cents the comprehensive plan. I think the important highlights to remember is that we have street maintenance every year. And this year you're gonna be able to put $1 million toward it. We're hoping that we can even expand on that. And then we have at least special highway tax going to it each year, but we hope to add to that plan as we go along. We're growing the curbs, the funding for curbs, and we're growing the funding for sidewalk every year in this plan. And that will be a part of the operating budget. The next slide that you show are the sources of money that would fund this program. And you'll see things that you're obviously used to seeing. Special parks in the donation, ARPA funds, grants that we would get, things from the operating budget, reserves and cash. And in that, it's also very important to point out the bottom two lines, which are utility bonds, state revolving loan funds, which are utility related, and then bonding of projects. And of this budget, $70 million would come from bonding. Now, I don't want you to get excited, I don't want the public to get excited. Those are projects, very large projects. An example is expanding the wastewater treatment plant. Well, there will be a study in advance. We'll develop a business case. Does it make sense? Will it pay that bonding for us to build that? So this is a planning tool. It is not a commitment to any of these projects. They can be changed at your discretion as needed. The fund balances, cash in them today for the funds involved in these accounts is $16,730,000. And it's always important for me to say, keep in mind that some of those funds are already committed to projects on these pages, or other things like equipment or something else that we've committed to buying. And then the last page here are the uses where the money is going to go in the CIP. And this is broken down by function, so we're looking at parks and curbs and gutters and sidewalks and all of the pieces of that CIP categorized into groups. So you can look at this in the materials I gave you, individual projects, comprehensive plan, or by simple function, all the things that we're planning to work on over the next 5 years. I'm happy to answer, I also wanted you to know that the non-utility projects is 58.8% of this plan, and utility projects represent 41.2% of the plans. So from there, I'm happy to take your questions. I should probably let the public know that I gave you an advance copy, since there was lots and lots of details. I didn't want to throw it on you Friday for you to be an expert tonight, so.
So the RHID is part of the capital improvement plan,
Yes.
right? And I was wanting to reconsider the Rural Housing Initiative District that was approved December 8th. Since I voted in the majority for that approval, I have the right to ask for reconsideration because of some questions that have come up. And some of those are, what is Ad Astra's track record, Ad Astra's landholding track record, and what other developments have they done? And why was this LLC not in good standing for a portion of 2021 and 2022?
Not in good standing with the Secretary of State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need to table that conversation until Pat's here, or?
We probably do. Is my understanding that that was their tax bill was paid in like June 21st. I'm not sure how that corresponds to when the date of the taxes are due. Are the taxes due the 1st of June?
May 10th.
May 10th, okay. So the taxes were paid in, I believe was June 21st, and that may have been the reason. 'Cause I think after that date, they were in good standing.
is there a track record of any other developments that they've done?
I would have to defer to Pat on that. I'm not aware of any other bad dealings they've had. I think the Colson family, according to Pat, and I'm going from memory here, this project started before I was here, but I believe the Colson family has owned that property for many years and then has recently purchased the other portion of the property that was owned by the previous owner that was under, I think the previous taxes hadn't been paid for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they paid the taxes on that property, which were pretty substantial, $600,000 or $700,000. But purchased that property for this project. Outside of that, I'm not sure what other projects Ad Astra has done in this area.
And there's also lots of companies with that name or similar names, so they could be completely different companies. I don't know. You know, I haven't dove into all the different names of that particular name. Different companies that have that name.
Are you wanting to reconsider it as like a separate item or as it pertains to the CIP?
I guess it would be, as it pertains to the CIP or?
I mean, I understand that there's money in 2023 CIP, but she also told us,
Not held to it.
yeah, we're not, this is a planning tool, so this is not authorizing any funding or anything. Like, this is basically our outlook of what we're planning to spend on over the next 5 years from a capital perspective. Now, if we wanted to reconsider that or do that, I think we'd probably be happy to do that if that's what you're wanting to do. I think it just needs to be done separately from what we're talking about here.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause that's a little.
sounds-
Does that sound?
We'd wanna be
okay, yeah.
strictly on that probably.
I would point out to you that the funding for the RHID will require bonding for the street work. And that, of course, would run through the normal process and you would approve that funding if you so choose. So even though it's here on this list, we're not writing a check until you choose,
Still comes up to us for
Right.
voting.
that's right,
So if you wanted to vote against it, that would be the time to vote against it.
on that portion of the project.
Okay,
This is just for the plan. To say
Right.
that we're okay with this plan.
At this time, we would move forward with these plans and bring each step for approval, or you could have it reconsidered within your right if you wanted to.
okay. Then let's do that.
I
You got
get it.
something, Lane?
Well, I was just gonna clarify, if there is a desire of the governing body, I believe you would have to add this to the agenda first. So there'd have to be a motion and a second to add this to the agenda, and then there would have to be, at that point, discussion of consideration of the RHID. So it would have to first move and then have to be approved to be put on the agenda and then discussion of that. And I think Chuck could even go into further details, but
So if we were to do that, we would have to amend the agenda to put it on there. For, like, that's the first step.
correct.
Okay.
I can follow. Good evening, Councilmember North. I'm sure that staff is happy to answer your questions. In terms of formal reconsideration of the RHID, it would be a two-step process. The first would be, as Mr. Massey indicated, we would need to amend the agenda to place reconsideration of the RHID, of the council's approval of the RHID. And then secondly, we would need a motion on that item whether to reconsider it or not. So it would first be put it on the agenda for the council to consider whether they want to, I'm using the word consider twice, to consider whether they wish to reconsider that determination. So that's but I'm sure that staff's happy to answer your questions, so I don't wanna make this overly complicated.
Okay.
If we do go into that reconsideration, though, that is what we are obligated to do.
Say, can we just add it as a discussion item instead of doing a formal consideration, or how does that? Do that too.
I think either way you have to add it.
Either way, you would have to amend the
Yeah.
agenda.
Right.
If you're talking about it as a discussion item for this meeting, then that's fine, but nothing can
Then we couldn't
happen.
take action.
Yeah.
And you can't reconsider, you can't actually reconsider.
So it wouldn't accomplish what she's wanting to
Oh, okay.
accomplish
Yeah, yeah.
if we just put it as a discussion item.
Yes. And does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna
No.
sit down, but I just wanna make sure that we didn't get sidetracked.
Okay,
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Dunley.
Do you wanna do that before we finish CIP, or do you wanna, are you okay with finishing CIP and then moving on to that?
it's okay to finish the CIP.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments on the CIP? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the CIP as presented.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-32, adopting the 2023 through 27 capital improvement plan for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Just to wrap up, I believe we'll plan regular updates on the CIP so that you're not wondering what happened to projects. I'm gonna suggest they're done at the end of each quarter to give you an update on them. And then, this is a living document. We'll continuously update it and, keep you updated as we move along. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is consider approval of addendum to engagement and professional service agreement for the provision of city attorney services and legal counsel agreement with MVP Law. And Mrs. Dunn, you still
It's my last one. Last one.
you're on a roll.
In the budgeting process, Mr. Dunley, the city's attorney, was working with us on trying to find a way to help us control and manage, reduce the legal expenses we've had in 2022. He made a suggestion which I adopted in the budget, and then he's come back now with an offer to go with a fixed contract where we pay $20,000 a month for the city attorney services. And then we would pay for some incidental by the hour, which is spelled out in the addendum. Those incidentals would be if he had to litigate on our behalf, is that right? Litigate on our behalf, or usually we outsource litigation, by the way. Or if we ask him to provide services to another entity, not the city, he would need to be paid outside his city obligation for those sorts of services. This will also help reduce the strain on the relationship with Chuck. He knows that we at times worry about the clock ticking and the meter running and the bill that's going to come, and it reduces the fear that we don't go to him for advice and input because we worry about the cost to the taxpayer for those services. This would eliminate that strain, which I think is a great idea. In addition to the $20,000 per month, we would budget about $30,000 for those incidental expenses and outside services that we might need from his firm. This does not impact other attorney services that we use or have used in the past as a normal course of business. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you would have. This is a budget savings of about $220,000 in the 2023 budget.
Sounds great.
I think it's a great step. I think all of us up here want to get those legal fees under control and get them where they should be, and I think this is a great step in that direction.
So this is more or less just essentially for a monthly retainer. We're paying a monthly flat rate for pretty much all the services outside of those strange ones that we're, the incidentals.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
And I
I'll
think it
give
said
you-
said in the report when we were doing it hourly billing, none of our previous 12 months were below 20.
That's right.
Okay.
The other thing, just to give you an example, one of those incidentals is our bond attorneys. That is not obviously a service that MVP provides to us, so we would continue to have those incurred costs related to bonding and other project work. I would ask Chuck, did I leave anything out or anything that needs to be added?
I don't believe so. Is this?
Okay.
No, just understand, bond counsel and city attorney, as a matter of law, can't be the same person.
Right.
They have to be separate. It is a $20,000 flat fee. It's not a retainer, per se. It's similar, but it is a flat fee, whereas with a retainer, we would get the money, and then if we didn't go $20,000, it would carry over, and if we went over $20,000, then we would then we would bill you for that. This is a flat fee.
We're gonna use you for it.
We still wanna see the timesheets, just for the record. No,
Now, we will actually continue to provide, although it will cut down some administrative work, we will provide slightly less detailed statements so that the finance department and Ms. Dunn are able to track where the expenditures are coming from, and further, so that any expenditures related to the Wiswell project, which are for which the developer is reimbursing the city, will be paid under that. Even though they fit under my $20,000, a portion of that, whatever portion that is, that would be attributed to the Wiswell work on a monthly basis, the city will receive a reduction.
I think, like you said, this is a great step in a way to help us control costs and have a better working relationship with MVP. And it's definitely a step in the right direction as we sort out our legal world.
I had a quick question. I feel like I'm getting really nitpicky, so I apologize in
No.
advance, but I'm just curious. I wanna make sure we're comparing apples to apples. You've mentioned in this report that in the past 12 months, we had not had a month under 20,000. Did that comparison include the additional incidentals? Is
Yes,
there ever a month where there's not an incidental?
the answer is both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, it's,
Okay.
no, there is not a month we haven't had an incidental. Not necessarily
So
for
that's-
MVP, but another fund.
That's why I
I-
wanted to make sure that that data comparison was comparing just city business and didn't include the incidentals, because if it included the incidentals, of course it's gonna be over 20.
Right. The number, the $220,000 savings that I mentioned is related just to the business with MVP.
Okay.
I believe there will be other reductions in legal expenses. We reduced the budget from 22 to 23 for that. An example is the Supreme Court case.
I was gonna say, but we use MVP for things outside of just the normal everyday use, so that's why I was making sure that those extracurricular uses were not included in that data. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
I compared the normal city attorney expenses of MVP to their offer of $20,000 a month.
Okay.
And the savings is $220,000.
Okay, thank you.
That, yes.
I may not have been using the correct terminology.
Well, and I may not have said it very clearly, so we're
Thank
good.
you.
My only question is, so is it looks like we need to give a 90-day notice if we wanna terminate this contract, and they need to give a 90-day notice, is that correct? No. No? So we can terminate anytime if we think it's too high or whatever?
I am required to provide city with written notice if we're gonna terminate the contract.
Only you guys are, we're not.
You are free to terminate the contract at your convenience.
Okay.
And
With
there's,
no time,
and there's no term limit or anything on
I
here?
serve at the pleasure of the governing body, and as an attorney, it's not appropriate for me to require notice from you or get money for you for work that I'm not performing thereafter.
Okay.
So the council may, upon the mayor's motion, the council may choose to, remove me and terminate the contract.
Okay. I just wasn't sure I wasn't sure if it was both of us or.
No problem.
I would also point out that to eliminate our relationship with MVP or any city attorney would be a time-consuming process, as I'm sure it was when MVP took over for the previous attorney. So I think if that were to ever be an issue we would want to take action on, time would be something we'd really want to give consideration to.
Yeah.
And is there Is there a time limit of this contract? I'm not seeing anywhere
I haven't seen it anywhere.
that shows a limit, or is this a month to month? I've been reading through it. I read through it once already before today, and I'm reading through it again, and I did not see anywhere in there unless I just missed it.
Based on what Chuck said, we can get out at any time, and I'm assuming they may or may not prorate it if it's in the middle of the month, but like, seems pretty simple to get out if we were to decide we wanted to do that.
And so for reconsideration for your fee, say you find out that 20,000 isn't enough for what you're doing, it's 90 days basically for you to say, hey, I need to raise it or whatever. Is that what the 90 days comes to, or is that just termination?
That would come to termination, but I would not enter into negotiations by saying, if you don't pay me more, I'm going to
Now.
end. If
That wouldn't end very well.
if there's a problem, I would come to you. I believe that the contract ordinarily, provides that we ordinarily have them for, that we can increase rates at a 12-month. I think this has a 2-year
Okay.
term.
I saw that in there, yeah.
12-month. But I anticipate discussing where we're going with this as you requested, Councilmember, in a prior meeting, that we can say how this is working out and take a look at some of the metrics. Probably in May or June for sure.
Yeah,
Middle of the
mid-year.
year.
Halfway
Yeah.
point.
And,
Is that kind of the same
Yep.
and then
limelight as?
by the budget time, hopefully I'll have a good grip on whether or not we'll be able to create a new addendum, further reducing fees. I can't promise that, I can't, but that's where that is the target.
So essentially, this is a month-to-month contract that auto renews unless we terminate it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know legally that's probably not what it is, but in my mind, that's kind of what it is.
This is an addendum to the existing
The
contract.
existing.
Right.
Yes.
And the
Right.
addendum is related to the amount they charge us.
Right.
It does not change the terms of the original agreement on giving notice or the
Right.
the length of that agreement or anything like that.
Okay, and that's why that's not in the addendum.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Right. Any
I'm
other
good.
questions or comments? I think it's like I say,
I'm good with
I think
this.
it's
Good.
a great step in the right direction. I think it still needs to go a little lower, but I think we could all agree on that, and this is at least a step in the right direction.
Good start.
So.
Great. Then I hope that you will approve the addendum to this contract and authorize the mayor to execute the agreements.
With that, are there any other questions or comments on that? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the addendum to engagement of professional services agreement for the provision of the city attorney services and legal counsel with MVP Law.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Next item on the agenda is number 15. Consider adoption of stormwater pollution prevention plan for Spring Hill wastewater treatment plan number 2. Mr. Messer, you have the floor.
Good evening. We had contracted with Lamprey Nearson to go ahead and do a stormwater management plan, and this management plan is limited to the wastewater plant. It's not for the whole city. It was something that KDHE and EPA was wanting us to do because of our growth. We're up to 1.2, we're approaching 10,000, and it really doesn't have a heavy burden or anything. It was mainly, we want these type of testing, we want this. It's just a plan to add a bunch of checks and balances is what it was. It's something that we needed to do, and I'd like to recommend that we adopt this stormwater management plan. We have the people that can execute it and do the recommendations. It's pretty standard. It happens all over the state. In fact, Lamprey Nearson, we chose them to go ahead and do it because they had just done several others and they already had the template and it was very quick. So I would like, we attached it and I'd like approval to adopt this plan. Like suggested would be a move to adopt the stormwater management plan.
What's the
Something like
budgetary impact on that?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
Pardon?
trying to find this sheet. I know it's in there.
Nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean the number?
So just the cost of training and all that? Or
Oh, I said that wrong.
Yeah,
It says there is one, but
Additional monitoring, employee training. So I amend that to minimal.
minimal, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I was,
I didn't hear it.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Minimal budget impact.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, it was like $3,000.
okay,
Oh.
that's what I was getting at, is
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't very.
I didn't have that in there because I hadn't got the bill yet, but it was
Okay.
very minimal. It was under my limit. I didn't even have to go. It
Okay.
was,
Alright, cool.
Well, with that, unless there are any questions or comments on that, I entertain a motion. Sounds like a pretty straightforward plan.
I move to adopt the stormwater pollution prevention plan for Spring Hill wastewater treatment plant number 2.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2022-33 and ordinance amending chapter 15, article 208 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the definition of trucks and truck routes. And Mr. Messer, you still have the floor.
okay, I'd like to thank the chief and captain helping out to do this. In fact, they did all the heavy lifting on it. But anyway, we had an issue with Gardner. Gardner is establishing a no truck route headed our way. So we had to respond and the county had to respond. And so they came up with a plan. There was a lot of discussions between Olathe, Gardner, Johnson County, Spring Hill to try to figure out what everybody needed to come together. For example, our trucks were 12,000 pounds is what was in our ordinance. Gardner said we want 16,000, so everybody agreed to 16,000. So all this is to put signs in on the west side of the city to turn it into a no truck route. Now the reason it's so expansive, it's really 199th, but they have to do all these side roads because Johnson County is very concerned about the damage that trucks are gonna do if they start to turn and then they have to go side roads. And so it's a pretty expansive effort. I think there's over 100 signs have to be put in. So we staff recommends working with the county and the cities to limit the truck traffic by approving this ordinance that modifies no truck traffic to the west side. And the reason we're being specific to this is this is a reaction to Gardner. They're putting the signs up on January 1st. So we would recommend that to move to approve ordinance 22-33.
And I think adding on to that, I think all of us up here, I'll let other people speak for themselves, but I think we all agree that we don't want traffic on 199th Street on the east side as well. But we do have to go through a process through that with the surrounding cities, Olathe, Overland Park, and then also with Johnson County to take all the necessary processes to make that happen and make sure we allow enough time for all those processes to happen and to come up with a plan, alternative plan for them to go. So I think we would all agree that we would like that to happen, would like that to happen soon. So that's at least my goal, is as soon as possible for that entire street to be a no truck route. But we gotta allow time for the process to play through.
I think a good opportunity is gonna be this comprehensive plan.
Exactly.
All the comments can be pulled together. And like I said, it'll be a burden, not a burden, that's not the right word. It'll be a change to Johnson County quite a bit for whatever we decide.
Right. And that's
Comprehensive plan
one of the
will
biggest parts of it is the comprehensive plan. We have to get all the public's input on how they want us to grow, where we want to grow, so we can put those truck routes in the proper places.
I want to commend the city of Gardner for getting the truck route stopped on the east side of Spring Hill, and also Johnson County for working with that. But I think it is too vague on the west side of the city. As far as truck routes, there can be different types of truck routes. It's too vague in description. 191st and 199th, according to Johnson County, are qualifying as a truck route. But I think we need to express what type of truck route, and I believe that a weight limit would be a good way to express what kind of truck route on the west side. 26,001 is what a CDL Class B truck has, which would keep semis off of that, but not local box trucks and deliveries and things like that. And the reason why it does not qualify, even though Johnson County says it does, is it's not safe. There was 2 accidents in the last 2 weeks. One recently is last Wednesday on 199th Street between Lackman and Flum, where the semi turned over on its side. And that happened the same thing, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where there was no problem with the roadways, and I don't know what caused the accident, whether they had to swerve over and they tipped over because of people trying to pass on that hilly road. It's hilly, there's no shoulders on 199th or 191st, it's residential, and I think that would be a good way where you're not disqualifying as a truck route, but it needs to be made what type of truck route, and I think it would need to be it would be 26,000 pounds is the maximum. That way local delivery box trucks could come through, but the semis would not be able to, because if you're 1 pound over 26,000 pounds, the roads are not made to handle that. It would cause damage to the roads. That's costly, and I just think that's not a good place to have it be a truck route unless we qualify what type of truck route.
I mean, this is,
Isn't that what's spelled out
Yeah,
here in
yes,
front of
it
us? It's literally saying anything more than 16,000
we're
pounds.
qualifying them at 16.
Yeah, which is
according
lower
to
than what
this.
you're saying.
Yeah.
So that would be,
Six-
I'm assuming doing what you're wanting, right?
16,000 and over.
Would,
So actually 16,000 is a regular box truck, which they have to make deliveries. But if it's 26,001 pound, which is a CDL driver, then you cannot have semis coming down. But the way it's written is 16,000 and over, which all trucks would be coming through.
So you're,
it's,
Well, local trucks are gonna be allowed to come, no matter what their weight is, they're gonna be allowed, if you have a truck going to
Destination
Mid-Am
traffic will be
or
allowed.
any of the other places over to Clorox or any one of those places, there's semi trucks that come there every day,
Right.
but they're gonna be allowed to
For
come, cause they're doing local delivery and supplies.
Correct, and I think this would be more restrictive than the 26,000.
Yeah.
Right.
But would still allow any local
16
destination.
This is better than what you're saying.
yeah, this is more aggressive than what you're asking.
This is saying even if you're 16,001 pounds, you can't go.
Yeah, but people still need to make deliveries, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Down
And
in the
that,
area.
this will
I mean,
allow that.
Nebraska Furniture Mart or anything.
Yeah, direct
That's
traffic
all.
can still come through. This is only for non-direct
yeah,
traffic.
this is if you're passing through.
This is if you're driving through going to Lewisburg or going to.
If any of the local industries or like Nebraska Furniture Mart had a local delivery, they would still be allowed to come here, even if they were at 26,000 pounds.
Right,
So local deliveries would be allowed, or local industries coming, would be allowed to use the roads.
Yeah, and it doesn't impact Mid-Am and Seats, because they have hundreds of trucks that come in and out every day, so those don't count.
yeah. I'm just concerned with the part that gets past those industrial places when it's coming through the rest of the west city limits.
I mean, I think this is pretty
That's
aggressive
resident.
with the.
This is
you know,
for
This
if
is
Seats-
for the west.
Yeah,
So this is all for the west. This isn't for the east side at all.
This is just to the west, partnering with Gardner.
Yeah, we're basically saying we agree with Gardner and we
I
agree
mean,
with
to
what
the east side is what I meant.
Yeah, so we're not doing anything.
The
for
east side is what I meant.
Gotcha,
Nothing's
okay.
done with the east side. That's right.
Yeah.
I got confused.
Okay.
That's what we were.
That's why we were all like, wait, we are doing that.
Perfect. It's the west side that I'm talking about.
This is for the
This
west
is
side.
for the
So
west.
East side's what you're thinking, like where the high school is.
You're
Yeah.
right. I did say east.
Yeah.
East side, east side is going towards Stillwell.
Yes.
Yes.
So that still would allow trucks 16,000 and over that could come through on that truck route, right?
Well, currently anything can, I believe.
Yeah, that's not, east side is still anything this is all for west side, so 16,000 above won't be able to go through the west side.
So we're limiting the west side first. Like my understanding is we're limiting the west side first.
Right.
Which
Right.
is what this is doing.
Right.
And then this is gonna be this is a first step in a process, and then at some point we will have a reconsider this or see this again, where we would start to look at the east side
Correct.
and then move from there. But and the reason we're doing it that way is so that we can work with Johnson County, not against them, and we can be on the same page and be in conjunction with them and do this as teammates, more or less, as opposed to not being on par. And it did all get started because of the action that Gardner took. I was kind of with you, or I asked a lot of questions about this before the meeting earlier this week, and spent a lot of time with staff on it.
And we've talked with
and I think
quite a bit as well.
yeah, I think as a group we're on the same page that we want what we're doing here to happen on the east side of 169 too. We're just not doing it right now, but I am supporting this based on the idea that the east side is coming here.
Well, and like Mayor Berkey said,
At some point.
there's processes that you have to follow and
Yeah.
steps you have to take.
Right.
And so hopefully that will get started
Yeah.
or is in the works maybe for the east side.
Yeah,
Right now, the way that it's written, the east side is not protected.
you're correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was
And
my
those-
that was my initial talk about this initially, and that piece is coming later. This is step one of maybe 3 steps.
But yet Johnson County considers that a truck route that is for all trucks.
Right, but they also considered the west side a truck route too, and so they put that process in place, which is what we're trying to agree with.
And we're also seeing them take action now.
Right.
So they're taking action on the west side. They understand, I think, that they're gonna need to take action on the east side as well. I think they probably know that we wanna take action on the east side as well. And I think it's better for us to work with them, which is how I'm understanding what we're planning to do in the near future with that.
And the process on the west side took a long time as well.
And this is gonna give you a buffer because nobody's gonna wanna come from the east if they can't get through, then it's gonna circumvent them anyway, so it should buffer some of that traffic coming through
Yeah, well, yeah,
for the
and
time being.
and I agree with you, Chad, because also the trucks that are all coming from the west, if they can't go after January 1st, if they can't go on 199th Street, they're going to go up probably to 175th Street, and they're not most likely not going to go to 175th Street, come south on 169, and then go across 199th. They're just going to keep going straight.
Yeah.
it's
So
gonna give 'em-
essentially, this is a real good step to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish.
And my other understanding, which was a big piece of all this, was that part of what the process of the east side is managing trucks that are moving west, even though the primary route that we're concerned about is trucks moving from west to east. So if we have a truck that's moving west, there's nowhere on that road that we can manage that, or we can try and enforce that safely for our staff. And essentially we'd have to let them pass through a no truck route and maybe have a chance at trying to enforce that. And so we need to come up with some kind of planning, or at least sit and think about how we're gonna manage that on that side of thing, even though it's the lesser scenario, or less frequent scenario, I guess is how I would explain it, so.
Now, this specifically says pushing to 175th and 223rd. Isn't Miami County working on something for 223rd too? To prohibit traffic there?
I don't know, they did 68, so I don't know, I have not heard.
They
of
made
any
68
plans.
a truck route?
They widened it and did.
Yeah.
68's going 4-lane.
And two
That's what I thought
twenty-three
Miami
is
County
a
was
truck
trying to
route for
push
mining.
everybody to that.
Yeah, so it may push traffic there as well.
And they've put in
Push traffic there.
They've put in a lot of frontage roads on
Yeah.
68 highway as well to push some of those home entrances off of the highway.
Hopefully they'll do that, but I have not heard any plans to do that.
That would be the much more logical east-west connector to 69 highway
Yeah.
when it's completed. Now, it'll probably take 2 years for 68 to get done.
Yeah.
So where is the city limit sign? I'm trying to think, is it right at Renner Road coming on the west side?
I believe it's Renner Road,
Probably
right around
just-
there.
On the east side,
Probably just east of Prairie Ridge.
okay.
Neighborhood?
Is there, don't we have jurisdiction as a city that we couldn't put one sign up there that says truck route, no poundage over 26,001?
Right,
I
but
mean, will we really, I mean, then they would know they could not go past that part.
Yeah.
right, but what he
So they'd have to go to Renner to 175th if they had to turn off of it.
and I think that's what he was getting at is we've got to do this the right way to where there's a plan to put it, because if you only put them right there coming into the city, those trucks will already get over to there,
Mhm.
and then they're like, oh crap, where am I gonna go? Well, then they're gonna go onto a side street that's even less capable of handling that truck.
You basically have to create a truck route that they can get to.
Or a gravel road.
So we've got to partner with the cities around us and with the county, so we have a proper route for them to go to before we say you can't go there.
Right. Correct. Basically, the ultimate solution would be, we also have to partner with KDOT.
Right.
The ultimate solution would be posting no truck traffic signage clear out at 69 Highway.
Correct.
Because once they turn off of that, there's really no good route to.
Yeah, they're trapped at that point.
Yep, they're trapped. So we have to work eastward, with the county and probably with KDOT, and Overland Park, I think, is right there at the corner of 69 Highway and 199th Street. So there's a few steps. It just didn't take a little bit of time to go through that process.
And we have started that process. So
Yes, and Jackie's contacted with Johnson County, and they've actually requested us to, before we jump right into this and declare it no truck route, that they have some time. I think Jackie indicated there was like 100 and some signs just on the west side that they had to put up, and deterring the truck traffic onto a non-pavement road or onto a county road that's not built for that is going to create additional issues with turning movements and things like that.
We can all see what's happening on Woodland, how the chip seal's not built for those trucks. Well, that's what would happen on their roads if, that's what we're talking about, detouring it onto a chip seal or a gravel road that can't handle it.
And we would now be the third entity to take action on this of some kind in the last 3 months, whereas as long as this issue has been talked about, nothing has happened for a long, long time, and now I think we're learning what, obviously what our citizens want, but also like what we can do and how we can work together to make this work, and that's how I see it working in the future as well. So I'm good with this for now, and I'm confident that we're going to be working to the east side soon.
Yeah.
What we have in front of us is, I think, great and positive, and I'm definitely in favor, and hopefully this is the first of many things that come in front of us to address this item to get the whole piece. This is just the first piece.
First step. Yeah. Yeah. So the goal would basically be duplicate this on the east side eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on that one? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 2022-33, amending chapter 15, article 208 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the definition of trucks and truck routes.
Pardon me, on that motion, it should be section 208. Article 2, section 15-208.
Say that one more time.
Article 15?
Article 2.
Article 2,
Dash.
section 15-208.
I'd like to amend my motion to stating Article 2, section 15-208 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the definition of trucks and truck routes.
We didn't have a second for the original motion. So don't we have to have a second for the original motion first?
Actually, just withdraw.
Can I second the amended?
Yes, he can second. She could withdraw first and amend.
You just want me to start over?
Yeah.
I withdraw my
that'll be
first two
easier.
motions. I'd like to make a third.
I rescind my first motion.
I rescind my first motion. I move to approve ordinance number 2022-33, amending Article 2, Section 15-208 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the definition of trucks and truck routes.
Second.
I've got a motion to second. Is there any further discussion or further? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
It's roll call.
Opposed? Oh, yep, sorry. Madam Clerk, please take a roll.
Mrs. North,
No.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1-0.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. I got several things today. I usually don't have a whole lot, but I was happy to see. I'm sure you guys have seen lots of trucks and equipment around town burying some conduit and stuff for internet lines. So that's kind of exciting for everybody. Clearwave has been hitting it hard in town, and then also Comcast has also started their plow down 169 highway. So if you drive along 169 highway between Spring Hill and Olathe, you can see all the way along the highway they're burying conduit to get that down to us. So it's exciting for me to see high-speed internet coming our way. So bear with us. We're getting there, but it's definitely a good step in the right direction. And glad to see both of them competing for our businesses. I think that's great for us as citizens. And yeah. And then also, I was able this week to go do a presentation for the Cub Scouts, one of the local Cub Scouts groups here in Spring Hill. So that was kind of fun. It was, they're probably eight or 9 year old boys. So I did a little presentation on them. They were studying local government. And so that was kind of fun to talk to them about it. And then just how the city operates and stuff, and it was fun to hear all. I opened up the floor for questions, and that probably lasted for about 30 minutes. So it was interesting, and it was funny. A few of the boys, how much they asked about taxes. Except the first question about taxes was, can you raise our taxes 50%? And the parents were in there with the kids, and so all the parents started laughing, and I was like, well, we could get a lot of roads fixed, but I don't think anybody would be very happy about it. And so then they went on and on asking about taxes. So I told them, I was like, well, next time if I meet with them again, I'll have to bring them some diagrams about where taxes go. But anyways, it was fun to get to meet with kids and teach them about local government and stuff. So they seemed pretty interested, and a few of the parents said they might come to council meetings and stuff and check it out. So yeah, that was fun. Then also just wanted to, I know Christmas is coming, wanted to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and looking forward to spending time with my family, and I'm sure everyone else is, so it's kind of a fun time of the year for everyone. So, and also my wife and I have been serving at the local food pantry, so if any of you have never done that, it's a great local thing to, especially this time of year, to get involved in and help out with. So we really enjoyed that. Even one of my wife's small groups from church did their small group there one night, and she took all the ladies with her from her group, and they went and served. So that was kind of fun. And then last thing for me, and we'll move on, the Mayor's Christmas Tree Fund is still open. I believe they keep that open through January. And for anybody that doesn't know about that there's 4 different local charities that goes to. One of them is Spring Hill Food Pantry. Another one is the Back Snack Program. And then the Southwest Johnson County Multi-Service Center Utility Assistance Program. And then Spring Hill Inspirations for Teens or SHIFT. And all those 4 programs provide a lot of different resources and funding to all local here in Spring Hill or the surrounding area. So it's great to see, to donate to those that help out our local community right here. So with that, I think that's all I have. Mrs. Roth.
No report. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Van Houten.
No report. Happy holidays.
Mr. Peel.
I was just, most of the village has got fiber either installed. I don't know that anybody's active yet, but almost all the south side of it is. My house is on the northeast corner of the village, and I think my area is about the last place getting stuff in, and we got markings this week, and almost all the other streets have had conduit go in, so some of those customers should be able to get hooked up here pretty soon, and been a long time coming for that area. I mean, even longer for them because they've seen other parts of town get it for the past, year and a half, 2 years. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of the people that live in that neighborhood are very excited to that service coming to them.
Yeah, and add on to that, I was back with RG Fiber, they buried a box in my yard about a year and a half ago, and I actually just got fiber service about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I went from 9 megabytes a second to like 150. So, and my cost went down by almost half.
Yeah. My 12-year-old is very excited because his Fortnite will not lag anymore. That's really the biggest excitement in our house.
Yeah, not to see the spinning wheel of death.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Anything else, Mr. Peel?
No.
I'd say the same thing. Black
Mr.
Hawk area is getting kind of the same. They're digging it all, which has been really exciting. But nothing else here. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Mrs. North,
Nothing to report. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Massey.
Nothing to report. Happy holidays and stay warm out there.
Oh yes. Oh, that was one other thing. Sorry guys, I keep jumping in on everybody's. We do have the warming center here open here at City Hall for anyone. If there's for some reason you're unable to be in and out of the cold, feel free to come here. We do plan we try to look at the local weather patterns and see what days kind of warrant that being open to be available to the public. So right now it looks like from the 21st, which is already passed, to the 25th at least. It looks like that time. So yeah, come down here during the day, get warm, stay inside somewhere. We always want to make sure that that's available when needed. So, Chief Henson,
No report.
Mr. Dunley,
Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you.
thank you, sir. Madam Clerk,
No report, thank you.
Mrs. Dunn.
No report, I've said enough,
You were the star of the show today.
I guess.
Mrs. Jones,
No report.
Mr. Messer.
No report.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session.
How much time do you need?
That one, I believe. How much time do we need on? 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
Okay, so 8:22.
Sure.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive advice of counsel regarding litigation pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 2 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in city council chambers with a couple of minutes of transit time. We'll resume back in here at 8:22. No formal action is anticipated following the session.
But that's only like 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, 27. Amend that to 8:27. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: F. Charles Dunley, City Attorney; Lane Massey, City Administrator; Mona Keisha Jones, Human Resource Director.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. We'll see you guys shortly.
Yeah.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's close, it's, you know, different month.
That's it.
We lose a couple.
And you know, we make these to say, fund IRS, we're gonna pay, buy for dinner
We gotta fix that clock.
and.
It's like 2 or 3 minutes fast.
Computer.
Don't even.
I got 26 and 26.
I
Yep.
said to ask you for your keys,
1 minute.
might be a long ways from
I
me.
can't believe how far the computer.
Work comp and
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Me too.
I'll just go out to it.
Cause my phone,
I started mine,
Computer say? Yeah.
that lady
That's
never
my
brings
phone.
it around, so I
Mine
just.
matches that too.
no, these two.
Oh.
My computer says 6.
You need to change your time zone.
Oh, I didn't look at
You're
that.
on the west, you're on the Pacific.
I was just
I don't touch this computer either.
yeah. That's Vegas time.
Right now.
I'll be there.
No, in between. Like, send them that email.
Yeah, that's what I should.
Alright guys, welcome back. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 8:27 p.m. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Merry Christmas and have a good night.